Brook Middle School 8th grade students. Welcome back to the DLD Show. It's me, Mr. Bork, here on behalf of Mr. Edwards, Mr. Parr, and Miss Polycarp. We're so glad that you're here for another week of DLD instruction. It's going to be a good one. This is a groundbreaking week for the DLD Show, okay? First thing to tell you, we weren't having DLD shows on Friday. We're going to start doing that this week, and on the Friday show, we announce the student of the week for each of the teachers' classes. So we're going to be looking very closely at how you perform and how the discussion posts go, and we'll be sending shout outs on that Friday show. Also on this Friday's DLD show, we're going to have another celebrity endorsement, and I figure why not have a contest, okay? A guess who? At the end of today's show, I'm going to give you your first clue as to who our celebrity endorsement is for this Friday's DLD show, okay? So we got these wonderful things coming. Plus, this week, we talk about interesting stuff. Criminal law, civil law, the steps in the justice system. And today, we get started with the difference between a criminal and a civil law. This is an important thing to know just in general in your life. You need as an adult, as a citizen, if you want to be about anything, this is one of those sort of basic pieces of information that you'll want to log into the noggin, okay, for long term. And we've got special guests here today to help us teach about these two very important concepts. Our first guest, none other than Teacher of the Year, Mr. Tommy Edwards, who's going to tell you guys all about what a criminal law is.
Hello, students. Happy Monday, and this is Mr. Edwards coming back to you guys again. I have to start off by saying I thoroughly miss you guys, and I pray that everybody's staying healthy and safe, and that you guys are following the guidelines of the CDC, especially when you are going out of your home, because I know you need a break from the house, but yet and still make sure that you guys are being 6 feet away from each other, okay, and try to stay safe. All right. This week, we're going to pick back up on what we talked about last week, which was the judicial branch. Judicial branch's job is to interpret laws, to make sure that they're constitutional or not. So there are a lot of cases that come before judicial branch or the judge system. So one of the situations that we have to figure out now is about the different types of laws that are violated. Mr. Parr is going to be talking to you guys today about the civil side of the court system. I'll be talking about the criminal side. So let's take a moment and look at it. The cases that come before the courts dealing with the criminal side or a violation of laws. When someone has violated the law, that's when they show up in front of the judge system. So that's something that we have to look at. So let's talk about how do people or what types of cases come before on the criminal side of the court. One is a felony. A felony is a very serious crime that takes place. It is usually punishable by a year or more in prison or $1,000 or higher fine. Similar to maybe something like an example of murder or burglary or something like that. So those are very, very serious crimes. And in some states, when you commit a felony, you could lose your right to vote. So that is very, very, very serious. And then on the other end, there is a misdemeanor. A misdemeanor. This is a less serious crime, which is punishable by less than a year in prison or less than $1,000 fine or both. All right, so you want to be very mindful. Example of a misdemeanor would be going to a store and stealing. All right, and you're stealing something that is less value than $1,000, or trespassing or something like that. So be mindful. There are a lot of court cases that come before the judicial branch. Dealing with the criminal aspect of it is either a felony or a misdemeanor. So be very, very mindful as you guys continue to go through the PowerPoints and learn about criminal law versus civil law. There's a lot to learn from it. So please make good decisions. And as we move forward with this DLD, I want you guys to continue to study hard, continue to try your best, and continue to stay healthy, guys. Once again, Mr. Edwards misses you, and I pray that we'll be able to see each other again soon. Until then, take care of yourself, guys. Miss you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwards, for that explanation about what a criminal law is. And yeah, like he said, the PowerPoint, make sure I didn't mention that before. Go ahead and download today's PowerPoint DLD 12, I believe it is, and it's not very long, but it'll have a lot of this information in it. Now, let's shift to the civil law. And let's bring in our other guest for the day. Let's bring in Mr. Jeff Parr, who's going to tell you guys about what a civil law is.
You know, this is such a big deal. If there are man-like primates running around in the wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, this is very important.
Todd Standing has...
Hey, Mr. Parr here. Just watching a video about a civil lawsuit that Todd Standing's bringing on people who don't believe in Bigfoot. So today I want to talk to you about the difference between civil law and criminal law. I'm going to talk to you about civil law, and Mr. Edwards is going to talk to you about criminal law. So, you know, there's something brewing here next door. A couple neighbors are having a feud. We're going to go look at that in just a second and see what that entails in civil law.
Dedicated most of his life to proving that Bigfoot is real.
You put your friends on my property.
No, I didn't. This is my property. I have the blueprints to show you.
I have blueprints too. I'll see you in court.
Fine then.
See, Hazel thought that Corbin had put his fence on her property. Civil law deals with laws created to deal with relationships amongst individuals. Civil laws usually involve compensation from one individual or group to another individual or group based on injury or wrongdoing. A civil wrongdoing against an individual is called a tort. Hazel thought that this tort against her was Corbin putting his fence up on her property. There's no crime being committed here. This is merely civil law.
Thank you, Mr. Parr. Yeah, civil law is going to be dealing with people, two people. Nobody's going to jail with a civil law, okay? I mean, with a civil case that's dealing with civil law. And like Mr. Parr said, generally there's going to be compensation. Somebody's going to be paying somebody in a civil case, but nobody's going to jail. Now, I'd like to just play for you real quick. It's a good little sum up, and it's only 2 minutes long. It's a very quick little cartoon that's going to go into a little more detail about the difference between a civil law and a criminal law. Take it away, cartoon.
It wouldn't make sense for a defendant in a contract dispute to have the same kind of trial as, say, Jason. That's why the courts in this country split cases into two categories: civil and criminal. A civil case is when one person, the plaintiff, brings legal action against another person who has allegedly wronged them, the defendant, with the intent of collecting damages. Damages equals money. A criminal case is where a government prosecutes someone to prove them guilty of committing a crime, like a car thief. The victim of this crime is often a witness in the government's case against the accused, as well as any eyewitnesses. In a civil case, the court can judge that a defendant owes the plaintiff money or other property or must perform a service that was promised. Mostly, though, it's money, reimbursement, compensation, or punitive damages. However, a judge in a civil case cannot send a defendant to jail, barring a few exceptions, usually regarding the intentional violation of court orders. In a criminal case, either the prosecutor or a grand jury initiates the proceedings. Punishment for guilty defendants can range from fines, community service, or educational classes, to much more serious consequences, such as jail time. And anyone, including the defendant, can be called as a witness in a civil case. Whereas in a criminal case, they cannot be forced to. Also, criminal cases generally have a higher burden of proof than civil cases. This is mainly because a person's freedom is at stake. Prosecutors have to work that much harder to show guilt. They must prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. A plaintiff in a civil case, however, only needs to prove that they should win by a preponderance of the evidence. Preponderance just means the greater amount or weight of the evidence, when taking into account the believability of that evidence.
Pay particular attention to that bit at the end that talks about the difference in determining guilt in a civil case and in a criminal case. In a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. In a civil case, it's called a preponderance of the evidence. It basically means a majority of the evidence is used. So this relates to the $1 million discussion question for the day. Okay, so first of all, the question is, why is it like that? Why is it beyond a reasonable doubt for a criminal case, but a preponderance of evidence for a civil case? Why is that? Okay, and should it be that way? Should it be that way, or should they be the same? So you're going to go ahead and make a posting, start a thread that talks about that and what you think. Be descript, and then go and reply to 2 of your peers. Now, before we go today, I want to do a little quick check. It's a fun little quick check. I want to quiz yourself. Okay, there's no score here. This is just going to be real fast. It's 1 minute. I want you to watch this bit of television show right here.
You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge Judith Scheindlin. The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge Judy. Ken and Jacqueline Sellers are suing Ken's daughter, 21-year-old Brittany Sellers, for the cost of a new mattress, the money spent to break an apartment lease, and a loan to take the LSAT test.
Order. All rise. That's case number 358 on the calendar in the matter of Sellers versus Sellers. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
So the question is this a criminal trial or a civil trial on Judge Judy? Yes, the answer is a civil trial. Nobody on Judge Judy ever goes to jail, okay? These are just personal matters between people, and they do sign a little special deal about who's going to pay. Judge Judy pays the person, who wins and loses. It's something like that. You get some compensation. But those are civil cases. Those are really good examples. Just like with Mr. Parr's example of moving the fence, okay? So that's our DLD show for today. Go do that, the $1 million discussion post. The packet, it's the week 2 packet that actually has the information that we covered here today. Okay, our clue. Now, clue number 1. For our celebrity endorsement for Friday is, and I wrote it down here, okay, clue number 1 is, most of you have loved this person. Most of you, I would assume, have loved this person who's going to talk to us here on the DLD Show. Who knows what else is going to happen? We'll catch you on the intro.